Good morning, Dr. Selva. Great to have you on our program, The Business Detective. To begin, can you tell us about your journey of becoming a top entrepreneur in the UK?
Good morning, Dinesh. Thank you for inviting us as for this episode. I think I always say whenever people ask this question, I say anything we materially achieve is all relative. So therefore, I'm not necessarily sure I am the top, but we all achieve and do our part. Our life started, I left Sri Lanka when I was 19 and I started as a chartered accountant. Then I joined the investment banking sector and I was there for 15 years and, got some fantastic training with the Prudential, Schroders, Fortress. So that gave me a very good understanding about the business. But I always very curious about the people. So that led us to go into education, and it's been a fantastic journey. I've studied with some of the greatest minds. I was fortunate enough to spend time in Harvard Business School with Clay Christensen, and that really changed my life in terms of really understanding the human side of our existence. So therefore, I would just say we are in education, we're in economy, we work with a number of countries now, particularly in UAE and Dubai, closely with the DET strategy. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. And it's about providing service to customers. And when you do that, your activity grows. So that's what I would say what we are doing.
Dr. Selva, what are some of the significant trends and innovations in your industry currently?
I think education hasn't necessarily changed for a long period of time, particularly higher education and also the K-12, the school education. So one of the things that we have focused is, how come when people go through certain education sector or certain schools or universities, there is a varied level of results, whether it is their business results or their person, why it is. So we're very curious. So that sort of lend us to really understand the education is not just giving people lots of information. I think in the industrial revolution it was useful. In the technology revolution is becoming less and less useful. So what is it? So that made us to research the whole thing about the inside out education. So the biggest trend I feel is within the AI world, within the technology revolution is to figure out who we are and this human existence rather than getting scared about AI. Even Navita, the CEO, will always say AI is there to complement. So therefore, but in order to appreciate that, you got to figure out who you are. And that piece of education, I believe, it is far more important rather than simply memorizing and then remembering and writing an essay or an exam and saying, look, I got a first class. I think that trend is changing. It's more of the human side of things where we need to learn and figure out. And it's discovery. You cannot put this into people. They could draw it out.
What are some of the opportunities and challenges you see for Sri Lanka as a country?
I think one of the biggest opportunity is everyone is starting at the same point. So we had COVID. COVID has reset the whole agenda of digital education. Even if you look at United Kingdom, we don't even have regulations to regulate digital education. I think the US is slightly different. They are far ahead and they had, because of the vast area, they needed to do that. But UK as a little country, we didn't do that. So therefore, I think the biggest advantage is, everybody is starting from the same starting point. And therefore, digitalize it. We only need internet now. And once you have that, I think the opportunities are vast. So therefore, when Sri Lanka can, a positive is that you don't need to catch anybody. You just need to start. And once you make that start, and I'm pretty confident things will happen. I mean, challenges, Dinesh, everywhere is challenges. Challenges gives opportunities. In the positive growth mindset, we don't look at challenges as problems. We look at challenges as opportunities. And as long as you understand, as long as you are here to serve the customers, I think solutions will come. So I think Sri Lanka is in a very good position because they are also hungry to change. They've seen lots of challenges as such. So therefore, I think it's in a great position to relaunch.
What advice would you give a budding businessman to set up overseas?
Um, I think, I have sort of limited experience in terms of, I set up in the UK first. I think it's about, it's the passion for anything that we are trying to do. What's the purpose? Then before we go into geographies, it's about the passion and the purpose. Once the passion and the purpose is clear, if geographies need to change, you can change. And that's what going abroad or going to another market means. But again, with digitalization, the borders are all being taken away. So therefore, you could structure the business from anywhere in the world, given what we are doing now. We are in very different jurisdictions, but we are achieving the same thing. So therefore, whilst technology is growing so fast, I think you can seek out customers, but you don't necessarily need to go and set up shops anymore because you could provide a service wherever you are. But I think once you have the passion and the purpose, perhaps wherever your product is more positively admired and taken, and I think you should follow the customer.
Often investors complain that we are not actually producing the right kind of skills for the local market. What advice would you give policymakers?
I think it comes back to what I just said initially, isn't it, Dinesh? I think at the moment, the education is very much an outside in, just giving a lot of information to our students. And lifelong learning is very important because we are absolutely becoming redundant and we don't even know how, in 10 years' time, a graduate attributes should be. Just learning about marketing, finance, strategy, particularly in the business field, it's not going to help. So therefore, I think I know it's a rhetoric that everyone say the skills need to come, but I think we all have an opportunity and all have a responsibility as corporates, as educators, as governments. I mean, governments are only there to create a framework. Business has got to drive. And if we look everything for the government, I think if you look at some of the best countries in the world, is able to progress because the businesses took that. Government will give the framework. I mean, UAE is the greatest example. They give the framework and then they allow the business to then grow. So therefore, I think it's collective responsibility. I think dialogue is very important. But I think deep down, we really need to ask the question, the curriculums as we are teaching and figuring out who we are as humans, I think is vitally important. And we call that natural intelligence. In the world of artificial intelligence, we say natural intelligence is what needed. So I think if we can tap into that, I'm sure the world will be a better place, and I'm sure it will be. Anyway, I'm an optimist always. So,
Dr. Selva, you talked of lifelong learning. Talk us or tell us about your new platform that you plan to launch with the government of Sri Lanka.
we are so humbled. I think we are able to get involved in this great project called Public Learn. I think if the population of Sri Lanka learns these skills to figure out who they are, whilst they have the aspiration of outside in learning, I think the country will grow because this is one of the ways to really turbocharge that discovery. And I think that's what's exciting. And I think, we could reach out to a lot of people. And we did this research many years ago. It's my personal passion. Because we started education with the end result of education is character. Character is everything. And I think there is a myth that business is all about growth. Not really. Business is about making changes to people's lives. And in return, you get financial rewards. So therefore, I think we are so humbled and able to share, do a bit or a small way what the president is trying to achieve, and he's really trying to change the mindset. And I think we are humbled that we are able to contribute in a very small way for a very big project.
How does your platform differentiate from the regular platforms that are currently available for Sri Lankans?
I think we have got two types of education programs, and it's perhaps comes from a Latin word. There's two Latin. One is called educare, which means I'm not great on Latin. It's about that outside. It just put a lot of information, and there's a lot out there, and then it's important, and it's there on the platform. But there's also another piece called educare, which is really means meaning to lead, meaning to draw out from within, to guide, to discover. There are a bunch of courses there which we developed, which is not available anywhere. This is a proprietary courses which is developed by Regent, is only for Regent. We have over 10,000 students in the UK and many thousands in UA. Our students get that for free because we believe something called it's in goodness that we need to keep that free. And then that's what we are doing. So we combined that with the outside in. So I just think bringing outside in and inside out through a public learn, it is having the best of both worlds to really ask the population in Sri Lanka to just figure out who you are. I think that will really sort lots of the problems, not just in Sri Lanka, I think, it's in the world.
What should the government be doing to attract some of the top brands in education to invest in Sri Lanka?
I think, as I said, the government's role is, I just think a government's job is to achieve happiness for its people. It must serve its citizens by contributing to the well-being. And I think the governments can only provide platform. I think we'll have to educate as well the population. Don't just look for answers from the government. You just find your own answers, and whereby the government can provide that stability in terms of legislations, regulations. Regulations are important. That's how you regulate markets, but there's a balance between free market and so on. So I think it's always good brands to come. I think you should intentionally, but the good brands are attracted with good businesses and good governance and so on. So therefore, it's a multiplier effect. I just think. I think Sri Lanka is doing it. I think the president is really look at the percentage of inflation. 70% has come down to normal rates in Sri Lanka. So I think the macros are very good, but I think it'll attract naturally those businesses will come and flourish, and there are a number of other countries who have done that.
Dr. Selva, there are so many Sri Lankans doing so well overseas. How do we get them to invest in Sri Lanka and to be part of our growth story?
I think you are absolutely right. I think maybe certain macro issues, what happened 25, 30 years ago, naturally certain Sri Lankans have moved to other parts of the world. Again, rebuilding trust, I think, Dinesh, is very important. I think the government is doing. I think it is a one nation Sri Lanka and understanding there is a bunch of languages spoken and also understanding, there is, a parliament is a representation of the people. And I think sometimes we need to be honest about what we can and cannot do. And I think if you do those things, and again, that over time, when the trust is built, people look at it. But you're absolutely right. I think the acres of diamonds are just sitting around Sri Lanka because I think there's already people who have got very good financial and academic abilities. They just need to tap into that in a very humble way, whereby they need to feel safe, respected, and then ability to forget, like the D-Day event that we had in Normandy last week. Germans and Brits and everybody was there. I think it's possible, but I think it may also take time because humans need time to accept.
Dr. Selma, my final question to you is: how would you like to be remembered?
I think I just like to remember as Selva. One thing, this education, I study a lot myself. I just don't just share this information. It's like music. If you can't sing, you can't really share this information as a musician. So it's very similar to that. So I think I just like to be who I am, Dinesh, and every human being. And I don't do anything just because something should happen. I just do it because I follow the passion. And if that passion takes us somewhere, and to be honest, I won't be here anyway to see. So therefore, you can only live here and now and do the right thing, and then stick to your values. And I think just the life will become joy, and which I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to spending time with you in Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Dr. Selva. Great talking to you.